the Chi-Town experience on the flight. Let me go tune in to Keek on the mic. He gon' make sure we get our news and highlights. When you get on YouTube, you better hit the like.
Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears could double down in a big way and focus on a huge area of need going into the offseason. Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. As always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Bears fans, before I go any further with today's episode of Keek on the Mic, I want to give a huge shout out to the sponsor of today's video, and that is BetUS. As always, Bears fans, make sure you guys head over to betus.com and use promo code YouTube150 for 150% deposit bonus up to $2,000, and also get 125% second and third deposits as well. Even though football season is officially over, you guys can still place bets on who you think the Chicago Bears will sign going into the offseason. Currently, there is bets out there saying who will land Trey Smith going into free agency, and there's pretty good odds for the Chicago Bears to actually land the coveted free agent once it opens up in March. So make sure you guys go over to BetUS, use promo code YouTube150, and continue to earn your money all off season long. So Bears fans, I want to give a huge shout out and congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles and Eagles fans around the world. What an accomplishment to go in there and win the way they did and stop the Kansas City Chiefs from making history and earning that three-peat. I know that I was totally wrong about the Philadelphia Eagles. I really thought there was going to be nothing that could stop Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs from making history and getting their three-peat. So huge shout out to the Philadelphia Eagles and how they built their team over the last couple of years and really created a strong team that can probably compete for a lot more Super Bowls down the road. So Bears fans, I want to make it very clear on today's episode of Keek on the Mic that this is a hypothetical situation. I don't want you guys to get too much into your feelings because I read all your guys' comments and sometimes I feel like you guys take my words and you guys just run with them, right? And rightfully so. Everyone has a right to their opinion, but I want you guys to be really clear on this when I say this, that this is a hypothetical situation on today's episode of Keek on the Mic. It does not mean at all that it's actually going to happen, but I do feel like it would be a huge opportunity for Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears to invest heavily in an area of need and hopefully get this position group up to date as soon as next season. You know, after watching last night's Super Bowl, it is clear to me that Ryan Poles needs to invest in the trenches. If you look through social media and you kind of just scroll, all Bears fans, and not just Bears fans, you know, fans around the National Football League, and when they're supporting their teams as well, they're like, man, the Eagles have some of the best trenches in the National Football League. Not only do they have a solid offensive line, they have a solid defensive line as well. But at the same time, Howie Roseman understood what he needed to do. He had a clear vision, and for draft after draft after draft, and, you know, acquiring talent via free agency and via trade, he built an absolute powerhouse in the trenches. And all I can think about when I'm watching the Super Bowl is Ryan Poles needs to take absolute notes here, you know, because when you're looking at the Philadelphia Eagles defense, they made one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, in my personal opinion, in Patrick Mahomes, look like absolute nothing. He definitely struggled yesterday and had a lot to do with the pressure that they were getting on Patrick Mahomes, and they didn't even blitz him, right? They were just winning with their front four, and that has a lot to do with the players that Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles brought in. So Bears fans, even though the Eagles defense really caught my attention, I couldn't take my eyes off the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line. Once again, Howie Roseman and the Eagles organization have built an absolute wall for not only Jalen Hurts and giving him time to make plays on the outsides to A.J. Brown to Devontae Smith, but giving Saquon Barkley massive holes to run through as well. They were absolutely excellent in yesterday's Super Bowl win over the Kansas City Chiefs. And I know over time on this podcast, we have discussed many different routes the Bears could look at to upgrade the offensive line. And we understand that Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears need to upgrade the offensive line and take a page out of the Philadelphia Eagles book. So once again, the Bears we talked about so many different routes via NFL draft with drafting Will Campbell or Greg Zabel or etc., via free agency and signing Trey Smith or Drew Dahlman, or even via trade by trading for Eric McCoy or Cesar Ruiz. Whatever Ryan Poles has to do to emulate on what the Eagles have done and not only building the offensive line, but the defensive line, he needs to take a page out of Howie Roseman's book. But after a lot of thinking, Bears fans, I believe Ryan Poles could consider doubling down and investing in two big names of players that were just in the Super Bowl, and that is guard Trey Smith and guard Mekhi Becton. We all know about Trey Smith and how we feel about that the Bears should make him a priority, even though he's going to want probably 20 plus million, probably even nearing 22, 23 million a year. Once free agency opens up, I think he is well worth the money. He didn't have his best game yesterday against that stellar Philadelphia Eagles defensive line. But when you look at his long body of work ever since he was drafted in 2021 by the Kansas City Chiefs, he has been a big component of the long-term success of the Kansas City Chiefs. And if they do, in fact, let him walk and hit free agency, I think he needs to be the top priority for Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears going into the offseason. But I have also heard a lot of Bears fans, just not only commenting on my videos, but social media as well, saying if the Bears can't land Trey Smith, let's say the New England Patriots outbid us for Trey Smith, for example. There's a lot of Bears fans saying if we can't land Smith, go after Mekhi Becton. My question out there to all Chicago Bears fans is why can't Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears possibly double down and try to land both Trey Smith and Mekhi Becton? I feel like it's really possible for Ryan Poles to do, and especially considering the contract that Mekhi Becton is probably going to want. It's not going to be as much as Trey Smith. We all know that we have massive areas of needs on the interior. I think when you're looking at the Chicago Bears tackles, we are set with Darnell Wright. I think you can give Braxton Jones at least one more year, especially what Ben Johnson could provide and be able to do for a guy like Braxton Jones. So I think the area of concern for Ryan Poles and the Bears going into this offseason is going to be fixing the interior. So it makes a lot of sense that maybe with the resources we have in terms of cap space, being able to land not only Trey Smith, but also Mekhi Becton. But first and foremost, before I get more into that situation, looking at Mekhi Becton, because he's had somewhat of a resurgence in his NFL career. His first 3 years with the New York Jets didn't go as planned, right? He dealt with a lot of inconsistency and injuries over his first couple of years with the Jets playing tackle. But then when he signed his 1-year contract this past year with the Philadelphia Eagles, they moved him to guard and he had a really good season, Bears fans. Becton is only 25 years old, standing at a massive 6'7", 363 pounds. Once again, he switched from tackle to guard when he signed his 1-year deal with the Philadelphia Eagles this past season. And this season with the Eagles, he had a solid year. In 15 games, Bears fans, he only allowed 3 sacks, 2 quarterback hits. He did surrender 25 total pressures, but was solid in the run game, posting a 74.7 PFF run blocking grade. Once again, when you look at a guy like Mekhi Becton, he fit the guard position perfectly with the Philadelphia Eagles. This guy is massive. He's also athletic. He moves really well for a 6'7", 363-pound frame. I think it would be a really intriguing opportunity for Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears to consider not only landing Mekhi Becton, but also trying to get Trey Smith as well. And I know a lot of people are going to comment on today's episode of Keek on the Mic and say, hey, Keek, how is it possible in terms of contracts to land both of these guys? Because both of these guys are probably going to be both of guys are going to be coveted, right? By teams that need offensive line help, especially on the interior. When you look at a guy like Mekhi Becton, for example, this was really the first year that he played really well. Once again, his first 3 years with the New York Jets, he was very inconsistent, dealt with a lot of injuries. He missed the whole 2022 season with a knee injury. So this was the first season where he actually had a really good year, really found his fit with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that's a lot to credit due to their offensive line coach. Obviously, he's playing around a bunch of talented guys as well. So I don't think Mekhi Becton's going to be asking for 20 plus million like Trey Smith. If I had to guess, I think the market for Mekhi Becton right now would be more around 10 to maybe $13 million per year, which is a considerable decrease from what Trey Smith is going to be asking once free agency opens up in March. So I think it's definitely a rare opportunity for the Chicago Bears to possibly land 2 guys that can really transform your offensive line here in Chicago. So once again, I'm really impressed with the bounce back year that Mekhi Becton had. I feel the Bears could make a serious swing to land both of these guys. And once again, of course, Smith's going to want 20 plus. But I think the Bears could get Becton for 10 to 12 range. And I think adding both Becton and Smith will be a huge upgrade for the interior of this offensive line. And when you look about possibly adding both of these guys, our offensive line will look something like this. Left tackle Braxton Jones, right guard Mekhi Becton. Left guard Mekhi Becton, my apologies. Center Coleman Shelton, right guard Trey Smith, and then right tackle Darnell Wright. A lot of people are like, well, how is that going to work? Because Mekhi Becton played right guard all season for the Philadelphia Eagles. And the one thing I can say is I believe both of these guys are versatile. I think I'd be more comfortable with putting Trey Smith at right guard and letting Mekhi Becton try out left guard. But at the same time, you saw examples last night at Trey Smith kind of moving all around that interior of the Chiefs offensive line, not only playing a little bit of right guard, but also playing a couple snaps at left guard as well. So Trey Smith definitely has the flexibility, and I'm pretty sure Mekhi Becton has the flexibility to learn new positions on the fly, because once again, he went from tackle the first 3 years with the New York Jets to now playing right guard all season long for the Philadelphia Eagles, and really having a resurgence in his NFL career. So here is the thing that I want to kind of break down to you guys and just hear you guys' opinions down below in the comment section. First and foremost, how you guys feeling about the possibility of the Bears spending big and investing on the interior offensive line and trying to land both Mekhi Becton and Trey Smith for their interior? And once again, this is a new hypothetical scenario that we haven't talked about yet, because if we do try to go out there, let's say Ryan Poles, hey, I'm going to fully invest in Trey Smith and Mekhi Becton, get the guard situations figured out, that means we probably won't go out and spend big on a third guy like in Drew Dahlman, for example, to really get that center position, the interior figured out on this Bears offensive line. That means the Bears would probably invest in the NFL draft in terms of looking for a new center. So if you get Mekhi Becton, you get Trey Smith, now you're looking at the centers in the NFL draft. You have Jake Majors out of Texas. You have Jared Wilson out of Georgia, etc. This is not really a strong center class for the 2025 NFL draft. And that means you are saying, hey, we're going to get one of these guys and we're going to develop them behind, a guy like Coleman Shelton, right? And maybe Coleman Shelton's play will elevate with better guard play with Mekhi Becton and Trey Smith. It's always a possibility. Obviously, you save money by keeping Coleman Shelton, and obviously you're paying a cheap rookie contract for a center that can develop under guys like Dan Rochar. You have to have a lot of confidence in your coaches and the way that he develops. So that can definitely be a route the Chicago Bears go. But the Chicago Bears can also go this route as well. Let's say they say, hey, let's go out there and get Drew Dahlman center. You get Trey Smith right guard. And then let's say you invest in the NFL draft as well, but now you draft Tyler Booker instead of signing Mekhi Becton. There's so many different routes that Ryan Poles can do to upgrade this offensive line. There's really no excuse for him. You have $60+ million in cap space. You have multiple high draft picks to really invest in the trenches. I just hope, and I know I just hope Ryan Poles has been looking closely on how Howie Roseman has built his team, because obviously we know that the trenches wins championships. And last night, the Philadelphia Eagles beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the trenches, not only on the offensive side of the football, but the defensive side of the football as well. So Bears fans, before I let you guys go, if you guys had to choose just this hypothetical scenario, would you be more comfortable with the Chicago Bears doubling down and going to get Mekhi Becton and Trey Smith and drafting a center? Or do you like the idea of Ryan Poles and the Bears going out and signing Trey Smith, getting the center figured out in free agency and signing Drew Dahlman, and maybe drafting a guy like Tyler Booker to be the other guard on the Bears offensive line in the NFL draft? Let me know which scenario that you would choose if you were in Ryan Poles' position. But other than that, Bears fans, make sure you guys continue to hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms, and make sure you share this episode of Geek on the Mic with every single Bears fan that you know. And also make sure you guys head over to betus.com and use promo code YouTube150 for a 150% deposit bonus up to $2,000, and also get 125% second and third deposits as well. But other than that, be back for all new Bears podcasts right here on Geek on the Mic. Thanks, guys, and as always, bear down.
You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You can go and subscribe cause I be on it right. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic.